All right, today we're jumping into a really cool idea that might just change how you think about money, happiness, and everything in between. It's all about the hidden power to control the one thing we can never, ever get back: our time.
So let's kick things off with a question that, honestly, defines so much of modern life. We are living in the wealthiest societies in all of human history. We have more stuff, more opportunities, you name it. So why is it that so many of us feel kind of stressed out, overworked, and not really any happier? It's a huge paradox, and we're going to dig into it.
And look, this isn't just a vibe. The data is crystal clear. If you look at the US, for example, since the 1950s, the average income per person has absolutely skyrocketed. I mean, we have stuff our grandparents couldn't even have dreamed of. So yeah, the richer than ever part, that's a fact. So what are we missing here?
To really get to the bottom of this, we need to talk about what's called the modern happiness paradox. And believe it or not, it has everything to do with how our jobs have completely changed.
This slide really gets to the heart of a massive shift. Think back to the 50s. A lot of jobs were physical. You worked on a line, you built something with your hands, and when that 5 o'clock whistle blew, you were done. You went home and work was over. Fast forward to today, and the whole game is flipped. We're in the era of knowledge work, where the heavy lifting isn't done with our bodies, it's all done in our heads.
And we're not talking about a small change here. The numbers are just staggering. You combine managers, professionals, and service jobs, and you're looking at nearly 80% of the workforce. These are all jobs that rely on thinking, on problem solving. The old assembly line has been replaced by the Zoom call, the never-ending email chain, and the late-night Slack message.
And this right here is the real kicker. When your main tool for work is your own brain, you can't just punch out and leave it at the office. You're thinking about that big project in the shower. You're mulling over a problem while you're making dinner. You wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about an email you forgot to send. It feels like you're always on the clock, because, in a way, you are. Your time isn't really your own anymore. So if having more and bigger things isn't the answer to happiness, then what have we been missing? Well, this brings us to the real and often totally overlooked value of money, what our source calls wealth's priceless dividend.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Forget the fancy car, forget the giant house. The real flex, the ultimate sign that you've made it, is freedom. It's having the autonomy to wake up and decide for yourself how you're going to spend your day, not just following someone else's schedule.
So let's give this idea a name: the priceless dividend. See, the biggest return on your savings isn't really about interest rates or stock market gains, it's about how much control it buys you. Because what do we all really want? We want to be in the driver's seat of our own lives. And having control over your time, well, that's the universal fuel of joy. So here's the big mental flip we need to make. The whole point of building wealth shouldn't be to buy a fancier cage with more obligations. The point is to buy your freedom, to buy your way out of that cage entirely. It's about having options, flexibility, and yeah, independence.
Okay, this all sounds pretty good, right? But is there any actual science to back it up? Well, you bet there is. And the science of control is absolutely fascinating. Way back in 1981, a psychologist named Angus Campbell dug into what actually makes people happy. And what he found was, honestly, a bombshell. He discovered that having a strong sense of control over your own life was a better predictor of happiness than your salary, the size of your house, or how prestigious your job was. I mean, that is a huge insight.
And this control doesn't mean you have to be a millionaire jet setter. It shows up in these small but incredibly important ways. Think about it. It's being able to take a sick day without freaking out about the bills. It's having enough of a buffer so you can leave a terrible job and find the right one. It's choosing a job with a shorter commute, even if it pays a little less, just so you can be home for dinner. And the big one, retiring because you want to, not because you have to.
The author of our source material tells this powerful story about his own life. He got this amazing internship in investment banking, something he thought he would love. But the crazy hours and the complete lack of control over his own time made it one of the worst experiences of his life. That is such a crucial lesson. You can have the dream job, but if you have no autonomy, it can feel like a nightmare.
And you know, there's actually a scientific name for that feeling. That little rebel inside all of us that hates being told what to do. It's called reactance. It's that deep, gut-level instinct we all have to push back when someone tries to control us. It's why a micromanager can suck all the joy out of a job you'd otherwise really enjoy.
Okay, so how do we actually put this into practice? How do we start thinking about money as a tool, not for buying stuff, but for buying back our time? Let's check out some real-world examples.
Take a look at this number,
$12,000. Now, that might not seem like a life-changing amount of money, but for one person, it was the price of total freedom.
So that's how much money an entrepreneur named Derek Sivers had saved up by the time he was 22. It was just enough to cover his rent and food in a cheap city for about a year. And that meant he could quit his job and go all in on his dream of being a musician. He eventually became a millionaire, but he always says that was nothing compared to the moment he bought his own freedom for just 12 grand.
But maybe the most powerful proof of all comes from the people who've seen it all. Researchers interviewed over 1,000 elderly Americans and asked them for their biggest life lessons. And the answers weren't about promotions or having the biggest house. They were all about quality friendships, feeling like you're part of something important, and spending real, unscheduled time with your kids. And what do all of those things require? Time.
And just as important is what they didn't say. Out of all those people looking back on their lives, not a single one said that what really mattered was working harder just to have more money than their neighbors. It just completely blows up that whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses.
And that just brings us right back to the single most important idea in all of this. Use your money to buy assets, to invest, sure, but never ever lose sight of the ultimate goal, to use that money to buy back your time. Because that is the one dividend that is truly priceless.
So I'll just leave you with this thought. It doesn't have to be some huge life change. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. But maybe it's paying for a delivery service to save you an hour. Maybe it's just setting a firm boundary about answering emails after dinner. What's one small thing you can do this week to buy back a little piece of your own time?